Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at train and test, and we're basically going to be looking at an example from W3 schools again, and then we're going to look at why you would actually use it. So that's it. Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at train test, and we're basically going to be looking at what it is and why you would use it technically. So first thing we're doing is importing these two. Then here we're basically getting like the data, random numbers basically. So this data set is basically for 100 customers in a shop and their shopping habits. So on the x-axis, we have the number of minutes that was spent before making a purchase. And on the y-axis, we have how much, or like the amount of money that was spent on the purchase. Then where the training and testing basically comes in is that it's a way to set the line and check its accuracy. So train X is basically you should take 80% of the original data. So we have the original data here, and then we take 80% of it for training, and 80% of the original data in the y-axis. And then the remaining 20% of X and the remaining 20% of Y is basically for testing it to see how accurate it is. And then all we're doing is we're using a polynomial regression, and then we're setting it into the line. So what I'll do is run it, and again, this is from W3 schools, like we're referring to W3 schools. So here you can see that this is like all of the data, and we have a line drawn through it. So what's basically being done here is that we use 80% of the data that we got, and there we use that to actually like draw the line, and then we're setting the remaining 20% onto the line. And yeah, and then why you would actually use it is because so one question that you could ask is why you would take 80%, draw the line, and then use the remaining 20% to actually test it, and not just use like 100% to fit everything onto the line. So what happens is that if you fit 100% of your data to train the model, then the model will it'll look perfect on paper, but then it might completely fail when it's actually put to use in the real world. So basically it's if you don't hold back any of the data that you have from the original data set for testing, then you could lose the ability to really honestly evaluate the model. So if you use 100% of the data, obviously because you used 100% to make the line, everything's going to fit perfectly. But then you can get a false sense of security that it's going to work, and then in the end when it gets a new set of data, then it's going to completely fail. And then especially there's also the risk of overfitting, that when there's a simple straight line, like in linear regression, then if you switch to a polynomial regression, then using 100% of the data the model will sort of learn it, or so it'll learn all the random fluctuations in the data set and so on. And instead of actually looking at the underlying trend, it's just going to sort of memorize it. So using the 80-20 train and test split, you could basically use 80% to actually train it. So it's basically like giving a test, if your teacher gives you a set of questions and just says memorize these and then come and give the exam, then most people will get 100% or something. But then that's not what usually happens for the same purpose, that they just give you some amount to train and then they ask you out of that. So that's basically why you would use train and test.